Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Commerce Diaries. I hope you all are doing well and good in health. In the today's video, we are going to learn about the steps in research. Before starting this video, if you want to learn about the research concept and its characteristics, which I have covered in the last video, I will be sharing the link of that video in the description of this video so you can go through with that video and you can learn about it and you can revise those concepts. Okay, so let us begin with this video. This is a very important topic in our examination. You can expect a 100% sure question from this particular concept. The each and every research comprises of all these steps, so you have to remember this concept. In the examination you can find these steps as your points given in your question, so you have to identify that whether which step is accurately given or not. Means you can expect this modified statement in the examination, but these steps are must be comprises in any research. Okay, so as you can see over here, I have inserted a one chart which comprises of all the 7 steps, so you can easily remember the steps and you have to remember this in the sequence form. Means you can't replace anything or you can jumble up this, as this is the procedure you have to remember as it is. So let's have a glance over it. The first step is that formulation of the research problem. Second, literature review. Third, formulation of the research hypothesis. Fourth, preparing the research design. Fifth, data collection. Then sixth, analysis of the data. Seventh, interpretation and reporting of the data. Now let us discuss each and every step in the detail. The step number 1 here is formulation of the research problem. If we are doing any kind of the research, we must aware about the problem where we have to find the solution and where we are going to conduct our research. So this is the initial and foremost step for doing any kind of the research activity. This is the initial phase of the research. During this process, observation, beliefs, information, and the general knowledge, etc., guide us about the new idea or the different way of the thinking of the phenomena. Means in this stage, we will find out the problem or the gap between the previous research from where we can get our research problem and we start doing research on those particular topic. The feasibility of the particular solution has to be considered before working formulation of the problem can be set up. Means only problem finding is not a thing in the research. We must aware about the feasibility, whether our research problem is researchable or not. We have to take care about that also. It should be specific and the clear to the extent it's possible. Means we just can't take any vague problem in our study. We have to take a problem that is the feasible for our study and that can be give us a final conclusion or ultimate solution to the problem. The cardinal principle to choose the research problem is not too small and to be signified but not too big and impossible. Means our research problem should be a practical and it is a general in a nature. We just can't take any imaginary or any other impossible things. No, our research problem should be a small and it is a accurate one. Then next, review of literature. As a researcher, study of the review of literature is the crucial while doing a research. Review of literature is the integral part of the entire research process. It makes the significant contribution to each and every operation of steps at the large stage. Review of literature or studying the review of literature will shows the knowledge and in-depth concern about the researcher towards his research problem. After passing through this stage, the researcher is able to acquaint oneself with the available body of the knowledge. Means once you will get your research problem, then you have to thoroughly study your review of literature. Review of literature gives you a more knowledge and more accurate things which will help in your research study. The main source of the review of literature are books and journals. Okay, means in the olden days, or maybe in this era also, we are following the books and the journal as a source of review of literature. But in the some cases, we will use internet, and our many sites are as our source of review of literature. Okay, there can be a gap of 2 or 3 years between the completion of the research project and the publication in the journal. Nowadays, researchers make an extensive use of internet. As I have decided, directly relying on the books and journal, we can go through review of literature by the way of the internet access and internet sources also. The literature survey and the reviews at the same time, the researcher should be careful about the authenticity and the content. Okay, so as the internet is, it is a wide source of knowledge, but before taking any review of literature in the consideration, we must check the authenticity and the ethical things while studying the review of literature. Okay, the next step, formulation of the research hypothesis. Here a term hypothesis is a very important. You have to remember the key term for this particular word. Okay, hypothesis is popularly known as the assumption or the tentative propositions. Okay, so you can expect a direct question from this particular word, like what is a hypothesis, what does the hypothesis mean, etc. Okay, then the things they want to investigate is the variable. As a researcher, we do not know the exact truth but have a much about the outcomes, and thus we make some predictions about the outcomes. Okay, so as we are new to our own research problem, we just can't give any kind of the statement or any kind of the direct result towards the our research problem. So in this case, we have to take a certain kind of the assumptions where this particular things may happen, or whether this particular things may not happen. So these kind of the assumptions or the tentative propositions, we will treat it as a hypothesis. As our research problem, our hypothesis should be relevant and accurate in the nature. This hunch or the prediction about the outcome is called as a hypothesis. It can also be termed as an educated guess. Okay, this is also important point over here. Hypothesis is the educated guess for a researcher or assumption about the some phenomena. This assumption is tested by collecting information that will be enable us to conclude our hunch of rights. Okay, so this is important point. We have to collect our data on the basis of our hypothesis. So this is also important step over here, and which plays the important role in all over the research process. Then next, step number 4 is preparation or preparing the research design. Okay, research design is popularly known as the blueprint of our research. This is also an important point. You can expect this point in our examination. Okay, the research design is an activity and the time-based plan in the view to keep the research objectives. Okay, so research design is the blueprint of doing a research. Means in the what way we want to conduct our research and what will be our objective to study the particular kind of the research that we will decide in this research design. It guides us about the types of the information to be collected and their sources. means what type of the information we are going to collect for our research study, and what type of the sources we will use, what type of the data we may require in our research studies. That comprises in the preparation of the research design. It is the framework for specifying the relationship among the variables under the study outline and the procedures. Okay, so research design is also a major steps in the total research process. Then next step number 5 is data collection. The data for research is the information related to our topic. Okay, so basically data is that the information which we are going to conduct in our actual field survey, in our examination, that is called as a data. Data is analyzed to determine the consistency and the prediction. The prediction, as we have decided in as we have learned in the previous point, that the hypothesis will make to collect our data. Okay, so we will try to collect the data which will prove our hypothesis. So the prediction from or setting up of the hypothesis, the quality and the validity of the output are solely depend upon the tools used for the data collection. Our data should be accurate, and it is not in the vogue in a nature. We have to collect the accurate and reliable data for our research study. The data can be classified as the primary and the secondary study. We may find these two kind of the data in our study, that is the primary and the secondary data, or it can be objective form or the subjective form, the qualitative and the quantitative data. Then here primary data can be collected from direct interviews and the surveys. Okay, so primary data is the data which we are directly connecting from our participant. We may directly interview them, or we will send them a questionnaire, or in the questionnaire form we will collect those kind of the data. So this is called as a primary data, which is the first hand data we are collecting from our participants, whereas the secondary data can be collected from the books, journals and publications. Okay, secondary data is a type of data which is already available, and we are just referring them to adding up the more things in our research. The next step number 6 is that analysis of the data. After collecting the data, analysis of those data is very much important, because on the analysis we may get our last result, which where we are going to prove our hypothesis. So after collecting the data, next step is to analyze it. It requires a number of closely related operations, such as the establishment of the categories and the application of these categories of the raw material through coding, tabulation and the drawing the statistical inferences. Okay, so after collecting the data, we will analyze the data, we will remove the irrelevant data from those things, and we will summarize the data, and then we are trying to put that raw data into the coding and the tabulation form, which will be beneficial for the further studies of our research. The last data should be considered into the few manageable groups and the tables for the further analysis. We must shrink our data from the larger data. We must avoid the unnecessary and irrelevant things from those particular data, and we should keep in the consideration to the most accurate and the reliable data. This is done with the help of the classification of the data for the more relevant and purposeful and usable categories. Analysis of the data comprises of the editing and the coding. Okay, we can analyze the data with the help of the editing and the coding. Then next, last but important step is that interpretation and the reporting of the data. After analyzing the data, we have to interpret it. First we have to interpret the data for ourselves, and then we have to report the data in our research, so that it will be a beneficial for further study to other researchers, and it will give the solution to our research problem. After analysis, the data interpretation and the reporting of the data is important. Interpretation of the data comprises of explanation of the data, how it proves our hypothesis, okay, or how it will give a solution to our research problem. Reporting informs the work that you have done, what you have discovered, and what conclusions you have drawn from your findings, okay. So interpretation and reporting of the data will help us to prove our hypothesis in the overall research study. So this was all about the steps in the research. If you like this video, if you find this video helpful for your preparation, or it simplifies your concept, that is the steps in a research, don't forget to give your review in the comment section, and do like this video and subscribe to my channel Commerce Diaries. We will meet in the next video with the new concept. Till then, have a nice day.